Alright, we're here with Breanna Romer. We're going to talk about 3 movies. Artifact, Dixie Chicks, Blue Problem Story. Alright, so start off, out of the 3, what would you say is your favorite?
I liked the Dixie Chicks movie the best just because I thought it had more of a storyline than just, oh, I got screwed over by my record label, oh, my manager sucks. It was like actually something that they did that was kind of in their control, and it had more of like a storyline, I thought.
And it was the older of the 3.
Yeah,
movies,
it was older, but that didn't really bother me, surprisingly.
Okay, so like what do you think was the defining moment of that movie? Like what was the conflict? Was it resolved? That type of thing.
I definitely think that it was when Natalie said that she wished the president wasn't born in Texas. They got a lot of hate for that because at the time everyone loved him, so whenever they said that, they got a lot of hate, and I think that was like the conflict. And they didn't make it any better because they just continued to like ag it on with like their photo shoots, and the way that they made their music then was very politically driven. And so I think that it wasn't really resolved very well because then they just kind of like lost popularity.
Yeah.
So
How do you think that situation compares to now when, the political climate's a little different?
I think this could definitely happen again, but it would probably be in the way of if you said that you loved Trump, because the weight is like more hatred towards him. But everyone is famous people, they speak out more on their political views, and I don't think it's as hated as much. But yeah, it still happens.
So, you kind of see that with like Kanye West. He said he likes Trump, and then people like got upset with him. So next up, you want to talk about the Lou Pearlman story? That was personally my favorite one. What did you think of that?
I thought it was good. I liked how they talked about the 2 different bands, Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. The only thing I didn't like was how they kind of went away from just the music, and then they went into like all of his investment fraud and like his blimps and other companies that he had. I would have rather had them just talk about the music and that story, but I understand that it was more of a Lou Pearlman rather than like the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. So
it was, I guess it was the Lou Pearlman story. So
yeah.
like he was doing fraud and all that type of stuff.
Kind of had to add everything.
What do you like as a manager compared to like as a person? How do you think he stands up?
I think that he was a good manager because if he would not have found the boys and made them who they were, we might not have had Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. And I think that they're huge. Everyone knows that and all that kind of stuff. But he was very scummy with how he made their contracts and very greedy with what he did. And from all the interviews with all of his like friends and stuff from back then, it sounded like he wasn't that great of a guy.
Right.
But, yeah.
So from like a contract standpoint, what does the 6-man thing mean? Because I heard that.
Basically he said that he was part of the band, so anything they made, he got like the 6th cut of it. But also they said that he like personally wanted to be in the band, so it was kind of like a psychological thing of like he was actually part of it.
Like some fantasy or something?
Yeah. And like they said that he was like basically their dad. So he was kind of part of it, but at the same time, like it's just weird and wrong.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Do you think labels and other people use that kind of technique of showing these young people this crazy lifestyle and then signing them into these kind of bogus contracts? Do you think that's...
Probably. I know a boy band right now that they have like all this like luxury stuff, and I never thought of it at the time. I just thought, oh wow, they're just making all this money, but I wonder now if like they're kind of in the same boat, they're just not to the point of realizing it yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know.
So now moving on to the Jared Leto movie. That one, probably my least favorite, but I do like I love 30 Seconds to Mars, but so what was your take on that? Like, I know that was more of a lawsuit contract kind of thing, but they're like a super successful. Not the the Backstreet Boys weren't, but
Yeah.
what did you think of that? Like,
I thought it was good. I thought it was kind of a pouty story in some ways because they would go and he would like walk off and just like have these heartfelt talks and stuff like that, which it definitely made it have like drama and more of a story kind of. But I thought that the whole lawsuit in itself didn't really make much sense to me because they didn't really go into depth of like what they technically broke contract with and why they were technically getting sued besides like EMI was just tanking. So I don't know, that kind of confused me a little bit, but
it seemed like they kind of made it a little more dramatic. Like,
yeah, I definitely think so.
they still haven't. I mean, the timeline might have been right, but
Yeah.
And like with the contract situation, what do you think is something that they could have done to prevent this like huge lawsuit and all that?
Yeah, I mean, they could have figured out exactly what they could have been breaking, I guess. And then I know they had that 7-year thing where they were trying to get out of it, but that didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
So I would say probably just looking at their contract more beforehand and like making sure they're keeping it. And if they want to get out of it, do it in a better way.
Yeah. And like with the situation with Jared Leto, he's like surrounded by all these lawyers and managers. It's like, what could have they done? What could have they done? What could have they done? That doesn't sound right. Whatever. What could have been done to like by the managers? Like, do you think they did enough? The lawyers and the managers.
Considering that it took almost a year, like I know that lawsuits usually take a long time.
Yeah.
We were just learning in business class that sometimes managers and lawyers would just like keep going because they want to clock in and clock the time and like make it kind of longer than it needs to be. And also like EMI just wasn't talking to them, and I don't know if it was because their business was going down or if they just didn't care about it or whatever. But I just think it dragged out a little too much, and that I think it could have been resolved faster.
Right. If you're a manager signing an artist and you have an obligation to that artist, like, but they have someone like Luke Perlman who's kind of like this third party, because it's a couple of the whole Backstreet Boys had one manager, right? Forget his name, but
I think it was Lou, and then the NSYNC, I think they had like a co-person, and then once Backstreet Boys said no to that Disney Channel thing, then he like jumped up and was like NSYNC, and then that was like a conflict of interest, I guess.
I wonder how like that co-manager didn't know.
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't really understand that part either. They didn't really go too in depth about that.
so if you were to get a manager, and looking back on these movies, like, what would you maybe take some steps so like a situation like that would happen?
I've actually had a manager since I was 7 years old, and now looking back at it, I know that I'm pretty sure that the contract is like 50% goes to like me, 50% goes to him of like just like record sales and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, at the time I was 7 years old, so like it was fine, and I didn't really make any money off of it, so it was fine. But you definitely need to like make sure you trust them, make sure they have the interest in you and not making money, which definitely my manager didn't, because it was more like a fun thing, you know. But yeah, I would say definitely trusting and actually looking over the contract. And now thinking about it, my parents were the only one that was kind of like involved in it. But with like the Backstreet Boys and stuff, their parents were the ones that were just looking over it and were like, yes, this is good. And I think that they didn't know everything, so I don't think my parents probably did either. So looking back at it, probably like getting a lawyer and all that kind of stuff involved so that you know what's going on fully. Make sure you know what's going to go on and how it's all set out. Yeah. For sure. Well, thanks for talking. This has been an interview of the movies we watched.